Coming up on Arirang News, South Korean auto giants Hyundai and Kia say they are not in talks with Apple about producing self-driving cars, contrary to earlier reports. Their share is down 6% and 15%, respectively. A report from the Bank of Korea calls for the creation of the legal framework for a central bank digital currency. It's planning to test such a system later this year. And South Korea reports fewer than 300 new cases of COVID-19 for the first time since November. The rules on distancing are being eased for several kinds of businesses, but only outside of the greater Seoul area. It's 5 p.m. here in Seoul. Thanks for tuning in to Arirang News. I'm Devin Whiting. The number of new COVID-19 cases in South Korea has fallen below 300 for the first time since November. And because case numbers are down, the government is easing up on some of the distancing rules. Starting today, outside of the greater Seoul area, the operating hours of some businesses, like restaurants, singing rooms, and gyms, have been extended by an hour to 10 p.m. But those rules in the capital region will stay the same. Ji-young reports.
South Korea has reported 289 cases of COVID-19 on Monday, down 83 from the previous day. It's the first time the number has been below 300 since November 23rd last year, around the start of the third wave of coronavirus. As the nation is seeing a slowdown in the number of COVID-19 patients, the government announced the adjustment to the social distancing measures, allowing indoor facilities outside the capital area, including singing rooms and gyms, to extend their operating hours.
It is fortunate that the number of confirmed cases has gone down below 300. Starting from today, the operating hours of some businesses outside of the capital have been extended by an hour, and businesses can now run until 10 p.m.
Also starting from Monday, people in South Korea, except for those in the capital area, are able to dine in cafes and restaurants until 10 p.m. But Seoul and the surrounding region will maintain current measures with such facilities only allowed to operate until 9 p.m. The officials said the government will monitor the situation and decide whether to extend the operating hours for businesses in the capital area after the Lunar New Year holiday. Meanwhile, the government plans to strengthen quarantine measures on those arriving from abroad. This comes as COVID-19 variants are spreading fast, seemingly becoming dominant overseas. Health authorities are planning to conduct COVID-19 tests on close contacts of confirmed patients arriving from the UK, South Africa, and Brazil. The country has reported 51 cases of COVID-19 variants so far, most of which were imported. Ji-young, Arirang News.
President Moon Jae-in has pledged to consider bold measures to overcome the economic crisis caused by the pandemic. In a meeting with his top aides on Monday, Moon said that South Korea is not going to miss opportunities to overcome the crisis so long as it preserves its fiscal soundness in the process.
위기도, 위기 대응도 우리는 한 번도 경험하지 못한 길을 걷고 있습니다. 정부는 재정이 감당할 수 있는 범위 안에서 과감하게 실기하지 않고 충분한 위기 극복 방안을 강구하는 데 최선을 다할 것입니다.
There has been controversy over proposals to disperse another round of relief payments to the public. Last year, the government first gave each household up to a million won, or about $900, later handing out 2 more rounds to the most vulnerable people and the hardest hit businesses. The issue this time is whether it should be universal or tailored. Moon said that it's not an easy decision and urged the people to gather their wisdom and the political parties to work together. There have been reports saying the South Korean auto giants Hyundai and Kia were in talks with Apple on the possible co-development of self-driving cars. But in regulatory filings, Hyundai and Kia have clarified that they are not in talks with Apple, which has sent their share prices down. Still, experts aren't ruling out a joint project at some point. Our Kim Do-yeon has the details.
Despite the reports in the past month, Hyundai and Kia said in separate regulatory filings Monday that they're not currently in talks with Apple for the development of autonomous vehicles. Last month, Hyundai and Kia would not confirm or deny the reports, But over the weekend, Bloomberg reported that the talks had recently fallen through. On the news of their regulatory filings, the carmakers' share prices took a hit on Monday. At the close, Hyundai had fallen 6.21% and its affiliate Kia was down 14.98%. But this, experts say, does not rule out the possibility of collaboration in the future.
Collaboration between them is important to winning the market. When self-driving cars are made, when they're driving, the passengers need to be provided with ability to surf the web or go on social media. In terms of providing content, Apple has much more big data on its customers than car companies have, so it's a win-win situation.
Hyundai has already announced some plans for the future when it comes to autonomous cars, but those did not include IT companies, so apparently, collaboration is not a must. As for Apple, the company has been actively scouting engineers and designers who have experience in self-driving car development. It's widely thought in the industry that Apple could release its first cars in 5 to 7 years. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
And as more of work and life goes digital, accelerated by the pandemic, it's expected that money will go digital too, eventually. It's a project for central banks around the world, including the Bank of Korea. The BOK is calling for the creation of a legal environment that would enable the use of central bank digital currencies. Kim Jae-hee has this report.
The Bank of Korea Monday issued a book on legal issues surrounding central bank digital currency, also known as CBDC. The book calls for revisions to the law to create an environment where the CBDC can successfully operate. The digital currency will be based on blockchain technology and would allow people to send money directly to each other without it needing to pass through a bank or other intermediary, cutting transaction costs. It would also make it harder to hide financial activity from the government, making tax avoidance much more difficult. Those supporting CBDC issuance say it combines the convenience of cryptocurrencies with the security of a regulated currency backed by a monetary institution.
Transformation from cash to digital currency could raise GDP by as much as 3%. Digitalization of currency would accelerate currency circulation and reduce maintenance costs. It would also be an efficient way to realize negative interest rates, overall enhancing the government's monetary management.
As such, the BOK is planning to test the operation of its CBDC system in a limited environment this year to explore the potential use of digital currency.
The Bank of Korea is conducting an analysis of operational procedures for a CBDC rollout, and outside consulting is also underway. This year, we're going to launch a CBDC pilot system in a virtual environment and run tests to verify its functions and safety.
Meanwhile, China has already begun testing its digital yuan. In October last year, Shenzhen gave away digital yuan to 50,000 people in a lottery. Other trial runs followed in various regions, including Suzhou, Beijing, and Shanghai. The U.S. last year revealed a collaboration between the Boston Federal Reserve and MIT on a research project to construct and test the digital dollar. The European Central Bank is also exploring ways to launch a digital euro. An expert stresses the need for South Korea to step up the research.
The US dollar may be the standard currency for cash, but China is aiming to make digital yuan the new dominant medium. South Korea needs to develop strategies on what position the country will take in the new monetary era.
The expert also called on the need to minimize potential drawbacks of central bank digital currencies, such as economic inequality from gaps in digital information. Kim Jae-hee, Arirang News.
South Korea has ordered the U.S. tech giant Google to improve its systems for use in the local market and to improve their stability under the first use of a revised telecommunications law. The ICT ministry said Google will also need to inform its users in Korea through their social media outlets when services are disrupted in the future. Several outages have prompted growing complaints against global tech companies like Google and Netflix. Last year, South Korea revised its Telecommunications Business Act to require large online content providers to report service errors and provide stable services. Companies in South Korea have been trying to go a bit greener by reducing their use of packaging material. The latest such effort is to get rid of the thin plastic labels on bottled water and bottled coffee. And one company is no longer packaging straws with small cartons of milk. Baeunji reports.
Water bottles without labels are stacked up at a store. These bottles have been designed to reduce waste and make recycling easier, as the labels attached to regular bottles don't get recycled.
This large retail store in Korea aims to save more than 21,000 kilograms of waste a year through these water bottles without labels.
When using water bottles, I have to remove the label, and this leaves dirty marks on the bottle. But with this one, it will be easier to recycle and reuse these bottles because they don't have labels on them.
This store is not the only place that sells these kinds of eco-friendly bottled products. Another company has also removed labels from their bottled coffee that is sold online.
The design and taste of the product are not the only things that are important. Being eco-friendly has become a competitive advantage when selling products. I heard other companies are also planning to release label-free products.
A dairy company said it received letters from elementary kids saying they would like to have their milk without plastic straws to save the environment. Usually there are straws attached to small cartons of milk, but the company has now removed them from some of their products. They have also changed their packaging for several products like large milk cartons and cheese to use less plastic. 배은지, Arirang News.
Time now for an in-depth look at the market news this afternoon, and for that I'm joined on the line by Dr. Yang Jun-seok, Professor of Economics at the Catholic University of Korea. Professor Yang, good to have you back on.
Happy to be here.
Well, not a great start for the week in Korean stocks. Down for the day. The Kospi slipping just below 3,100 points. A big factor, the news on Hyundai and Kia. Tell us about the local markets.
Okay, well, as you said, Kospi fell by 0.94% today, and the underlying reason is basically that the foreigners have been selling their stock. According to the Financial Supervisory Service, on net, even though foreigners bought in November, starting the record growth that we saw in Kospi, they sold on December and January about 2.6 trillion won worth of stocks each month on the net. So that accounts for why a lot of the steam in the Kospi market seems to be running out. And as you mentioned, the Hyundai Motors and Kia Motors stock fell on the news that Kia is no longer discussing building electric cars with Apple. Their stock had gone up recently because of these rumors, but apparently the negotiations have stopped. And that has caused a lot of disappointment by Korean investors, especially individual investors who invested in the Hyundai and Kia stock based on that notice. Samsung also has lost value, but it's a bit of a good news. Analysts believe that in the medium run, Samsung, Hyundai, and Kia will all continue to rise, but all these stocks, all these major stocks may be going through a adjustment for the next few days. Kosdaq, it was down 0.69% today.
Well, Professor, stocks in New York closed Friday with the biggest weekly gain since November. S&P up almost 5%, NASDAQ up 6% for the week, driven by anticipation for new stimulus in part, it would seem. What's the story in the global markets?
Okay, well, there's multiple reasons. Quarterly earnings reports have been coming out, and majority of them are beating fourth quarter expectations. And the short squeeze that we heard a lot about for the last month or so, it seems to be returning to normality. GameStop, AMC, and other stocks, their prices have fallen significantly, though they are still higher than it was at the beginning of January. And Treasury Secretary Yellen has testified that U.S. may be able to return to full employment in 2022. Because of these news, perhaps the stock market is shaking off very bad employment numbers. U.S. only created 49,000 jobs in January. Unemployment rate has fallen to 6.3%, but that's not because of rise in employment, but rather because people are discouraged in finding jobs, so they're dropping off the labor market. But stock market in the short run may actually take this bad employment numbers as good news because that implies that the Fed will maintain low rates and easy monetary policy, including the QE. Futures show that when the stock market opens today, it will rise significantly. Europe and European stocks are following U.S. for the most part. Asian markets all rose today. And Nikkei rose 2%. This is the highest it's been since 1991.
All right, Professor, we'll take a look at all that again later in the week. Thank you so much for sharing your insights today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of this newscast. Thank you for watching. More live news coming your way at 7 p.m. Korea time.